And he had actually strangled me. And I remember the only time I've ever felt like I was going to die was in the clutches of his arms.
They say that a bond between a father and his daughter is special. Dads are usually very overprotective of their girls and would do anything to keep them safe. And that's what makes this case extremely heartbreaking. This dad actually suffocated his little girl just for revenge. And what's even more disturbing, it could have been prevented. Kayden Mancuso lived in Langhorne, Pennsylvania with her mom Kathy and her stepdad Brian Sherlock. She had 2 younger stepbrothers that she absolutely adored and cousins that she would often play with. Kayden was described as a vibrant, outgoing, and loving little girl. She loved dancing, singing, and braiding her friends' hair. Those who knew her said that she was the kindest, sweetest, and loudest little girl you've ever met. At 7 years old, Kayden was a student at Edgewood Elementary School, where she got good grades and was a talented athlete and gymnast. Kayden was also super close with her biological dad, Jeffrey Mancuso, and the two had this really strong father-daughter bond that was absolutely adorable. Although things had not worked out between Jeffrey and Kayden's mom, he seemed to really love his daughter and remained a big part of her life. Sadly, this did not stop him from doing something so horrible to her. According to Jeffrey's sister Allyson, Kayden was the only bright thing in her brother's life that had been troubled since childhood, and was made worse by his excessive drinking, self-medication, and violent outbursts.
He's punching teachers, getting hit in the head with a pool stick. He had like 17 staples in his head or something like that.
Allyson believes that her brother suffered from some sort of brain damage, which caused him to progressively get mentally ill. He would constantly get into fights and was facing multiple charges of various levels of assaults, in addition to facing accusations of harassment and trespassing. Jeffrey and Kayden's mom, Kathy, met in the summer of 2011 on the Jersey Shore. She found him charming and funny, and they had a fling. Later on, when she found out she was pregnant, they decided to move in together to give their baby a home. Though Kathy said in an interview with ABC's Nightlife that their relationship wasn't romantic and they slept in separate rooms. Living with Jeffrey was not that easy for Kathy, as he would insult and humiliate her, and was even physically abusive towards her. It got so bad, she even started fearing for her life.
And he had actually strangled me. And I remember the only time I've ever felt like I was going to die was in the clutches of his arms.
She couldn't leave him, because she thought that it was the right thing to do for her daughter to be around both parents. And also, despite his aggressive behavior towards her, Jeffrey was really loving towards his daughter, and he was a good father to her. Kayden also really loved her dad, and would always brag about him, saying things like, "My dad is so tall, he's so strong," despite the fact that he was only 5'6". Jeffrey's angry outburst would only get worse, and one time he was in a bar fight, and he bit a man's ear off. That's when Kathy decided that it was time to go. So when Jeffrey was in jail, she packed all of her things, took her daughter, and left him. But since she didn't want to break the father-daughter bond, she made an arrangement with him, allowing him to see his daughter on the weekends, and he continued paying child support. Around this time, Kathy met and fell in love with Brian Sherlock, who became a strong father figure for Kayden. They had a beautiful wedding ceremony where Kayden served as the flower girl. Kayden bonded with her new stepdad, and according to Allyson, her brother did not like this. He hated the fact that his daughter was happy in her new family and was excited about having a puppy and a new house. This really made him mad, and he even went to court to seek partial custody of Kayden. And this was just the beginning. Jeffrey was becoming more and more unpredictable. He was harassing Kathy and Brian, accusing them of all sorts of things, and even calling the police multiple times, demanding that they go to Kathy's house and get Kayden. It actually got to the point that the police were like, "If you continue to harass us, you're going to be filed for charges." So he had to stop, but his violent tendencies continued to spiral out of control. And in one incident, he physically attacked his own mother in front of Kayden. Kayden later told Jeffrey's sister that she was beginning to fear him. When her aunt asked if she thought Jeffrey would hurt her, she said yes. In another incident, Kayden saw him punching his dog and then himself in the face. You can just imagine how that must have terrified her. Her mom by this time was also scared for Kayden's safety, and she tried everything to keep her little girl safe, even filing a restraining order against Jeffrey. Sadly, the police did not take her concerns seriously, and they were like, "Well, he's not hurting you." They told her that since she couldn't prove that Jeffrey was abusing her or her daughter, that no one would listen to her. During the custody hearing, Kathy brought in several witnesses, including Kayden's principal, a teacher, and her soccer coach, who saw Jeffrey confronting Brian in one of Kayden's soccer games after Jeffrey had brought her late to the game.
I sat there and watched Jeff get up in Brian's face, and it looked like he was trying to provoke him into a fight. The switch went off in my mind that he needed professional help.
Brian said that Jeffrey looked like he had been in a bar fight because his face was all swollen up and he had blood and scrapes all over his knuckles and hands. Teachers and other parents from Kayden's school testified about him threatening them with violence. He was even banned from the school and from making contact with the school staff because of his temper. But this is where things get really sad and disheartening. Even with all this evidence against Jeffrey, the judge still did not take it seriously. He ordered that both Jeffrey and Kathy undergo a psychiatric evaluation, saying that they both needed therapy. The court-appointed psychologist found that Kathy seemed to have anxiety, but Jeffrey was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, moderate with anxious disorder, and identified with narcissistic and antisocial personality traits. But despite all these red flags, the judge still felt that these were not reasons enough to stop Jeffrey from seeing his daughter. Even though Kayden had told a custody evaluator that she wanted to not spend as many days with my dad, the judge said that she did not strongly dislike him and was not scared of him. He said that since she wasn't being physically abused at that time, she should be allowed to carry on seeing him. In his ruling, he wrote, "Kayden presents as a happy kid with a generally normal relationship with both parents, despite the volatile relationship they have with each other." The custody evaluator recommended to the judge that Jeffrey's visitations should be supervised until he received mental health treatment. But the judge, while noting that Jeffrey's behavior was concerning, allowed him unsupervised visits with no mandatory mental health treatment. That was a huge mistake. Now, after this ruling, Jeffrey showed up at Brian and Kathy's house with the judge's order in his hand and accompanied by police, and demanded the little girl. Kathy later said in an interview that her biggest regret was not ignoring the judge's decision and going to jail herself in order to keep Kayden away from her father. On August 4th, 2018, Kathy and Brian dropped Kayden off at her dad's place for the weekend, but Jeffrey failed to bring her back on Sunday as agreed. Kathy called 911 and told them that she feared her daughter was in danger. The police, however, refused to go to Jeffrey's house, saying that there was nothing they could do since Kayden was with her biological dad. The following day, which was on Monday, August 6th, Kayden's stepdad Brian and her grandfather decided to go over to Jeffrey's house and pick Kayden up themselves. When they got there, they found the door was unlocked and decided to go inside, but they were not prepared for what they found.
Got to where the steps were, and I turned left. She was just laying there. And I knew she was dead. I mean, I need to do this to your own 7-year-old.
He broke down when he saw the lifeless body of the little girl that he had grown to love as his own. He went out and called 911, who came in 3 minutes. They tried to see if they could save the girl, but it was already too late. Kayden was gone. The police also found Jeffrey dead in an upstairs bedroom. It was clear that he had taken his own life, but they could not tell how he did it. The autopsy report said that Kayden had been hit in the head with a weight 4 times before being suffocated with a plastic bag. Jeffrey had also left a vengeful note on her body saying the family got what they deserved. Kayden's death shocked the entire community, with family and friends asking why someone would do something so cruel to their own child. Her devastated family said that they always feared Jeffrey would harm Kayden, but prayed it would never be so extreme.
We knew this was gonna happen one day, we just prayed it wouldn't.
They blamed the police and the court for not taking the concerns seriously and for failing to protect Kayden.
The systems failed us. My sisters fought for her custody for years, and they didn't listen to us. And they let him take her, and now she's gone.
I just wish that the police, the courts, and that everybody would have done something to change this before it got to this point.
Kathy was beyond devastated, and she could not help but feel that if someone had taken her seriously, her little girl would still be alive. The case gained international attention, with everyone calling for reforms on the laws protecting children. People were also outraged at the judge who allowed Jeffrey to have unsupervised visits, despite knowing about his criminal past and mental instability. An online petition was even started started, calling for his resignation, and it quickly gained popularity, with over 40,000 signatures. During Kayden's 8th birthday, Kayden's family and friends gathered outside Bucks County Justice Center and sang birthday songs for her, and also called for the removal of the judge.
If he had just let her go with supervised visits, she would still be here today.
Are the judge and the police to blame for what happened?